Welcome back, and thank you for joining us right here on Cadesport for yet another Pro Power race. But you're joined here with me, Mark, but I'm also joined by El Jefe himself, Frank Garcia.
Hey Mark, how you doing today?
Good, thank you. How about yourself?
Very well, thank you. I'm looking forward to today's racing, and one of my favorite courses starts us off Cyclogen City, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I love the night version of the map, which is what we're on today, where we have one lap at 16.6 kilometers with a 43-meter climb. Race 2, where we switch from road bike to the unfamiliar and daunting territories of mountain bike for Lakeview Circuit, where we have 3 laps of 1.8 kilometers apiece to make 5.4. And race 3. Tell us about that one, Frank.
Cade Kart, I believe this is not the Grand Prix version, so I think this is the this is a little bit bigger version. So the turns ought to be a little bit easier to go through at speed, but still very tight course, very, very technical. And this is where it's all about skills and not very much about power.
Fantastic. So we have power-ups today as well coming into the races. So the first race sees us use two for the riders, I should say, and they're 2 apiece of each, so there are 4 to use in 2 categories. We have corner caper, where there's 20 seconds of that, where riders will be impervious to the slips, falls, and drafting out of corners, with a 1 minute and 30 recharge time. Lazy Boy, where regardless of how you pedal, you'll get 421 watts of power for 20 seconds. However, if you try and pedal harder, you're still going to be at 121 watts. Sword of Damocles in this case. You get the power, but you have the curse of power too. So there's a 1 minute and 30 recharge time on that as well. Race 2 sees riders have 3 power-ups in 1 category only, corner caper, but that comes with the caveat of it's now reduced to 10 seconds with a 1 minute recharge time.
Yes, it'll be very interesting. Lazy Boy's dual-edged sword, gives you some time to rest, but your power is stuck at 421 watts. It does give the opportunity for other people to attack.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how people are going to take advantage of that, especially when we get those big straights that do come up on Cyclogen City.
Absolutely. I think this is it's a good place, especially if you've just done an attack, to sort of get some recovery. Could allow people to come back to you, but it could also allow you to recharge your batteries and then continue with a consistent effort to stay away. Yeah,
absolutely. So this is going to be a really fun course because it's primarily a fairly straight-ish road course, but there are some real nasty corners that will just jump out on riders here.
Absolutely, and here we've got the start. Looks like we've got Vivica and Timothy definitely doing a lot of riding together. They can look like the Blue Angels and just follow one another very well. They've been improving their team tactics race after race, so it'll be interesting to watch them this morning. We've got some new riders in this morning as well. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the skills of Cadesport versus just the power that they might use on other platforms. And so that's something for us to watch today as well. We've got David Tobin here from West London. Looks like following Erhan from Turkey. So it'll be interesting to see how this pack forms. We should have a pretty good peloton today for quite a while, non-technical at the start. But there are some technical sections on Cyclogen City that will catch some people out. And there's a couple of sneaky corners a little bit later on here at the beginning that might catch some people out who aren't used to the corners and aren't paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are on a smart trainer and you've got your trainer resistance set to 100% so that you have the full draft benefit and the full feeling of a descent where you get the freewheel build-up, that emulates in the game here. And those corners will be particularly nasty because the thing I'm building up to here is they are on descents. So you have to really get your braking right, because they've caught me out many times on this map, even when I've just been free riding. So that's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. So one of the things, just like outside, what I say is Cadesport is about cycling. It's not about just pedaling. Oh, we see attack here from Timothy Tamont. Always one to sort of energize the races with some attacks. Gets up to almost 800 equalized watts here, and he's going to just liven up the field here. He says, okay, we're all sitting in. And as you can see here, Cadesport, everybody thins out into a line just like they do in real life, because of the drafting dynamics are very realistic on Cadesport. And now you see Timothy above FTP. FTP is 421 watts, equalized watts. And so he's definitely above FTP. You see he's controlling his breathing. He says, let's get rid of this towel. I'm getting a little warm here in my red room. He throws it away. That means... so what that means to me is he's planning to go hard the whole race. He doesn't even need his towel anymore. So that'll be interesting. But you see this great long line, great drafting dynamics here in Cadesport. This is Cadesport. It's great for team time trials. It's great for pace lines. It's great for echelons. We can also have wind involved in the races here. And it looks like we're losing a couple of people at the back here. It looks like Erhan's off the back. Kay Thomas is off the back. Sebastian's off the back. That's a little bit surprising to me. But I've seen Sebastian riding a lot, and one of the things that you do see in Cadesport is if you've been riding a lot, fatigue adds up, and because everyone's equalized, that fatigue really shows you, more so than even riding outdoors, how much impact fatigue has on your performance. You can really sort of see that. We see Igor Kopse in here in the pack, just riding along. And it looks like he's very, very comfortable with the dynamics here. So great looking pack so far.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing some interesting choices here in terms of the bike choice. So we've seen a couple of tri-bikes here. What do you think that will bring to the dynamic, Frank?
Oh, David Tobin gets caught out on that little chicane there. That was that chicane I was talking about earlier. Just sort of sneaks up on you, and you really got to be paying attention. Interestingly, for Igor's first time, I kind of expected that might catch him out, but it looks like it didn't. So maybe the pack dynamics were good for him, or maybe he just really is feeling that sort of cycling presence as well. It'll be interesting to see if David Tobin can catch back on. He does have the ability to go hard here. But it looks, and Vibeke at the front looks like she's only holding about 360 watts. So it looks like David Tobin, if he works at it, should be able to catch back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Vibeke is really good at having short, intense shots of power. So it'd be interesting to see, now that she's up at the front of the peloton, what she's going to be able to bring to the attacks here.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see also the sort of team dynamics between her and Timothy. We also see Pedro up here. Pedro has been improving his skills race in and race out. Pedro always seems to have the legs. I think he's probably a type A kind of personality because he tends to crash in the corners because he goes in a little bit too hot. And it's very easy to get sucked into trying to follow somebody or trying to catch somebody in the corners and taking too much risk. But Pedro has been learning to be a little bit more consistent in the corners and a little bit more patient through the corners. And it's really starting to pay off for him with improved positions. And David Tobin has indeed, from West London, has indeed made contact just in time for some of the technical sections to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like I was saying here, with the you can make choices in the game as to what bike setup you use. The tri-bike is obviously still road-centric. What do you think that's going to bring to the dynamic for the riders that have chosen the tri-bikes?
That's a great question. What we see here is and there goes Igor on the turn. So one of the technical sections catches him out. Not a surprise. It's his first time in, but he will learn to pick up on the corners. He's going to be a very strong rider today. So once he gets through the technical sections, if he takes it easy, he should be able to catch back on in the long straight. And I wasn't sure what bike he was on, but I hope he's on the TT bike because that will help him in the long sections to catch back on because his aero will be much better. But it might be what caught him out in the corners as well, because it has less grip. It's got narrower tires, and it's got a little bit less grip in the corners. So it's a trade-off that you play here in Cadesport. All of the tire, the surfaces, pressure in tires, all of those things affect the physics of the game. And so those are some of the trade-offs that people will take. And you see we're breaking up here a bit. Mark, as we went through the technical section, that peloton has come apart. And look who's at the front, Vivica and Timothy. So that the practicing that they've done on the teamwork is really working there. And you see Igor, he says, I can get back on, no problem here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing about the team play between Vibica and Timothy, when they can get together there, they're not in the draft. They're kind of forcing what they can of an echelon with two riders, which is obviously not much with two riders, but they're trying to force out people from doing lane selection. And that's a really interesting tactic. Unfortunately, it's just come undone. Oh,
wow. So that was great. So that was a pileup of puppies, as they say, and they're really giving Carl the chance to make the break. But here what you see is someone passes you, and you want to hit the power as a cyclist. But if you're in a corner, outdoors, you would sort of realize not to do that. But if you've been cycling on virtual platforms, you learn some bad habits, you get right back on the power, and that will put you outside the corner. A huge pile up there as Igor passed everybody, and everybody was like, hey, we're going to catch on. But Carl was like, nope, I've got my paradigm correct. I'm cycling outdoors. I've got to go through this corner. First, you got to get through the corner, and then you can chase the person. And that's a little bit different. Now what you see here is Igor says, well, I've got this power-up thing down, and I will catch on. Now, everybody's got to be careful that their time doesn't run out. Oh, and as I said it. So you got to get slowed down before that corner. Ooh, Pedro goes down. Now, one of the things that happens in these technical sections is once you go down, you really think to yourself, oh my gosh, I've got to catch on. So you start taking more chances in the corners. And then what happens? Bam, you crash more. And we were talking about how great Carl was doing, and one of these technical sections caught him out. Now that gives everybody else a little bit of a chance to catch up, but he's got a pretty big gap. Timothy drops the corner caper here. He says, I'm going to close that gap right now. It'll be interesting to see how this works out for him.
That's a fantastic decision of a place to use that. It's perfect utilization.
Yeah, he's closed that 16-second gap to 3 seconds, right? Now, you see Timothy's working very hard here, 192 equalized heart rate. Now, one of the keys to Timothy's success, I believe, is he is one of the riders that I see who takes quite a bit of rest. And we've all heard about, the fitness and how rest and recovery is very important. But a lot of us just ride. We race. And then we see somebody who's taken days off like Timothy, and he can get his heart rate up into these, 196 areas, and he's taken a bit of a break with the lazy boy here. If you're at 196, you're hurting. And but Carl's climbed onto his wheel. But this is one of those things that people should sort of take note of. If you are rested, you will do particularly well on Cadesport. So when you come into a race, if you're less fatigued, it makes a huge difference on Cadesport.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where a rest day will help your muscles to push out that lactate so you can get nice, strong, recovered quads and glutes, which glutes are important on your road bike. You're going to come back powerful.
Absolutely. Now, a couple of interesting things here. You've got Igor Kopse off the back by 18 seconds, but he's was putting in some large efforts, and I would expect we'll see his heart rate sort of climb up. I think it's his first time, and the system will be equalizing him based on his performance today. and that'll get refined this evening when the system looks at his numbers. But he should have a little bit of extra power, most likely, since it's his first time. And so what we might see coming through is he'll be able to catch on these long straights. Then the question will be, how much did he learn from the turns, the technical sections previously, and will he figure out, hey, I just need to go slow through these corners and make sure that I don't crash, and then attack on the straights and get back on. So that'll be interesting to see if he can make up the difference. Looks like Dave Tobin is trying to catch on his wheel as he goes by. That might be a little bit hard to do today. And then we see Carl off the front. Now, Carl is an excellent rider, and you can see he's working hard here. Now, Carl is able to work hard for large sections of the race, large sections of the playlists. He fatigued a little bit on Thursday in the last race, but odds are he'll take the overall points today for the playlist. That's who my money would be on. Now, Timothy probably disagrees with that, but we'll see how it works out in the end.
Yeah, my money would be on Timothy. He's got the quads of an elephant. He's just fantastic at those big charges. I think what Timothy's doing now is tricking us. He's holding a sweet spot, is my personal opinion there.
Well, these two are definitely working together, it would appear. And I think that's going to pay them dividends. So what they're saying is, okay, we've got some other people. You see Igor really making a charge here along this big straight. Now, the challenge for Kopse is going to be when he gets to the technical section to slow down in time. So he's got to brake before the corners. He's got to let off the brakes in the corners, just like outdoors. And I'm sort of saying this so he can hear me. Change your paradigm from other cycling platforms that are pedal, and you can pedal through the corners, and you pedal downhill, and you pedal through corners at the bottom of hills. Can't do that on Cadesport. You've got to brake just like you do outdoors. The physics are very realistic in that manner. One of the things that also catches people out, they've learned some bad habits outdoors in other cycling platforms as opposed to outdoors, because you can just pedal all of the time. And then the other thing that'll catch you out, oh, yep, that one caught him. But the other thing that'll catch you out is that in the virtual world, it's a little bit harder to sense how tight the corners actually are, especially from those bad habits learned on other platforms. Oh, and you see Carl that was beautiful. Right up to the corner, yeah. Hard braking, but then off the brakes. And then the other option is what Timothy is doing, which is, okay, nope, I'm going to go as fast as I possibly can through the corners. And then it becomes, when is that going to drop out? And you see him hitting the brakes. Oh, nope, yep. Very interesting. Timothy's very good through corners at speed. Oh, that was amazing. You see that
was
skid.
Close.
Right, and I'm sure he turned into that. Oh, but he overcooks the next one. Oh, that's just too bad. But they'll come out of this pretty equal, because Carl is saying, yep, you keep taking those risks, and I will just be Mr. Consistent, and that's going to pay off for me in the end up here up front.
Yeah, and Carl is really proving the point that really bringing it down in your speed is actually going to save you time.
Yeah, so, you see two different styles here. You see Timothy skidding through some of the corners. He is absolutely trying to get the maximum speed through the corners, and you see that with the skids, and then he's saving them. But sometimes he doesn't save them. So there's a big risk-reward trade-off there. But you see he's got a little bit of a gap here, 2 seconds on Carl. So that's just, I was better at corners. And then Carl's like, yeah, but my legs are better than your legs. And we'll see if that is indeed the case. Now, I would imagine that Timothy's going to try and maintain the gap here versus letting Carl come back. I would say that Carl probably is the stronger fitness rider, and I would say that Timothy is probably the stronger technical rider. So it was advantage Timothy through the technical section, but I would say it's advantage Carl now through to the end of the race.
Yeah, perhaps, because Carl is more what I would call endurance, holding power for a long time. Timothy is your sprinter almost.
Yeah, Timothy, I always tend to think of Timothy more as on the gamer side. So he's gonna count his power ups. He's going to know when to use his power-ups. You see both of these riders are going very hard, 194. They're in their 190s. Now you see this is a great use of the lazy boy because what's happened is Timothy has reduced his heart rate down by using that and getting a bit of rest. But he's also got Carl in his draft now. So it was sort of a trade-off between, okay, now Carl can hit my draft, but I'll be rested and I can attack. And Timothy is Mr. Attack, attack, attack. And Carl says, you keep right on going ahead. I'm going to climb onto your wheel, and then I'm just going to sit there, and I'm going to count on my endurance winning in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really quite a nail-biter, really, going up to the finish here. And this is where we get into some somewhat technical corners again. They're not the sharpest, but they do catch people out.
Yeah, if you're going really hard, if there's an attack or something like that, they can catch you out. Generally, they won't, but a lot of times what some riders will do, and maybe this is what Timothy was doing in the lead into that, is if you attack into it, you get that Blue Angels phenomenon where it's like you're following, the jet fighter in front of you. And what you can do is sort of get them to accelerate with you, and then you can maybe switch a lane, hit your brakes before they realize what's happening, and they'll fly through the corner and wreck, and then you can take the apex, come out of the corner, hit the power, and have a great gap. But neither of these riders have made that mistake, and I imagine since they were in the 190s on the heart rate, they're not really looking to attack just yet. They'll probably look to do that, a kilometer and a half from the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And dare I say, because I'm from Canada, it might be the snowbird effect.
Well, I'm here in Tucson, and we have the whole snowbird effect here in Tucson as well. Probably we get your snowbirds in the winter. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so for those of you not in North America, the joke is snowbirders are people that go down for vacation to the United States, but also the snowbirds are the military acrobatic jet fighter team.
Oh, see, I didn't know that about the Canadian team. So there you go. I learned something new.
Yeah.
Interesting here. We see Vivica. Looks like she might be off the back a little bit. We see Pedro. Vivica looks to be saying, okay, I'm going to save it for the next race. Pedro looks to be, putting in a bit of a charge. David Tobin says, hey, Igor, let me show you how we can go through the corners. And Igor says, hey, maybe I want to catch on to that. But you see David Tobin making a huge effort here, and it looks like he's trying to catch on to Vivica, and they'll probably ride together. Maybe Igor will close that gap, and they'll ride together to the end as well.
Yeah, and Vivica seems to be trying to hold power to hold place so she would be, where is she? In 5th at the moment. So yeah, trying to hold for a good place in the table, and she's very good at holding power.
Yeah, now I will be doing points just, sort of on a scratch pad over here. So I'll sort of announce what that looks like. Oh, and as I say that, Carl puts in a big attack. Now this is interesting because, again, you sort of look like there's a corner coming up. It's not for a while, but if you can sort of get up to speed, and then Timothy says, okay, I'm going to attack back over you. Very interesting. These guys are highly motivated. Timothy won the day on Thursday. Carl missed out by one single point, and it'll be very interesting to see these two heavyweights sort of duking it out and seeing who can come up with the overall win for the day, and if anybody can get a hat trick as well. Very interesting to watch them today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a fantastic showcase there of how steering can be used to deny somebody the draft benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting also in the corners, if someone gets on your outside. So, for instance, if Carl is on the outside of Timothy, who likes to skid through the corners, that will impair Timothy's ability to do any skids. Because if he starts a skid and he bumps into Carl, he'll go down. Right, so the dynamics, and Timothy's kind of trying to do that to Carl here, but the dynamics in Cadesport are you can't crash anybody else, but if you run into them while skidding, you do crash yourself. It's kind of like hitting the outside of a corner in a skid. That's when you crash in Cadesport. But if there's a rider in the way, you do that much earlier. I think that caught David Tobin out a little bit earlier as well. Now, I do want to make a comment here. Very interesting. We've got Homer Thompson and Sebastian 40 seconds off, but they're in third and fourth position. Now, remember when I commented on how Sebastian was sort of off the back and, he wasn't going as hard as everybody else? I love this about Sebastian. He's a very technical rider, and he's like, you guys all go super fast. You all guys go super hard. I'm just going to be Mr. Consistent. I'm not going to crash in the corners, and you know what? I'm going to have a high finishing position. Now, while I was saying that, here we see Sebastian, and Sebastian's just following Homer, and Sebastian's like, I'll get you in the final technical sections. But up front, we had Carl making an attack, and these guys are really duking it out. I mean, they're throwing big haymakers back and forth. Carl accelerated out of that last corner beautifully. And that is a skill in Cadesport, because if you really jump on the power too much while you're still in the corner, you will crash because you will lose grip, depending on what that corner looks like. And then we see here that Timothy is really moving away. It looks like Carl is like, okay, maybe we're going to give you this one, the points for the day, and I'm going to try and take it on the next race. You've got Timothy at 2:03 on his heart rate. Very motivated today, I would say, with regards to that. So Timothy takes the first one, and Carl takes second place, and he goes into lazy boy mode. He's really looking to recover for the next race. And a little bit further back, and we see congratulations, Timothy, as you cross the line here. And a little bit, and congratulations, Carl. And a little bit further back, we've got Sebastian and Homer. And we'll see how that turns out. Sort of on cue, you see that Sebastian is moving away from Homer. And now you just don't want to make a mistake in this last corner. We wouldn't expect that of Sebastian. Oh, Homer says, I've got a corner caper, and I'll just go as hard as I can through that last corner. But you see the watts here, 700 watts from both of them. I think Sebastian will hold it to the line. But Homer very close. Then you've got Pedro coming up, and then Vibeke. And this sets up, I'll calculate the points, but this sets up for an interesting playlist. Sebastian is close, and we've got a very technical course in the last one that I would give my nod to Sebastian winning that one. And so we'll see how this works out.
Yeah, Sebastian is clearly a very seasoned mountain bike rider in the Rio outdoor world, and he very much brings that to the table in Cadesport. And Timothy really proved himself here as what I described him as a sprinter. He really put the power into that sprint, and that was really what clinched it for him.
Well, and then we've got Homer and Pedro rounding out the top five. David crossing the line with a big effort right before Vibeke. And so we've got Igor in eighth. So it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a tough sled for the rest of the races for Igor, but maybe he's going to learn to hit those brakes before the corners and let off. Hint to you about how to ride think more like cycling and less like indoor cycling when you're riding these courses on Cadesport, and we'll see how he does the rest of the way as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see that we're going to see him really prove himself on his first day here.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, so race 2, Lakeview Circuit, the 5.4 total with 3 laps of 1.8 kilometers. And this is not the most technical, but there is some technical stuff that will really spring up on people with those kind of wider and tighter corners that come up towards the end of that T shape.
Absolutely. So I would say here, advantage Timothy because of the technical sections. Carl tends to go a little bit slower through the corners, but if Timothy overcooks it, he might find himself out. Now, the way to ride this is to cycle this course and to get a rhythm when you're going through these corner sections. So you just sort of get into a rhythm, get sort of a standard, and we're also showing there's obstacles here as well, which can catch you out. So we'll look at that, but I'll let you call the start, Mark.
All right, yeah, so we're about to take off here. And Vibeke doing a nice big powered push to get into the front here with her teammate Timothy. So it's going to be interesting to see if their attempt at an echelon will have any effect on the mountain bike, where draft is going to be, I would say, lessened because of the grip of the mountain bike tires.
Yeah, overall here what you're going to see is we're going to get a lot more road resistance. So the drafting dynamics are similar in mountain biking, but we don't normally talk about them as much because they don't have as much as an effect as you would in the road because of the reduced rolling resistance. Oh, did you see that? That was a wonderful play there by Carl. He said, you know what, I'm about to crash, but I'm going to invoke my corner caper, and then I'm going to take it through the next corner. And Carl is very good about getting the timing of the corner caper down. Interestingly, he didn't really get that much of a gap, so I don't think he went really hard. I think he's probably saving his legs for a little bit later in the race.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's he's clearly heard your commentary here, and he's taken it to heart very quickly and very quickly adapted, which is fantastic. So Zeb, yeah, maybe he's a little bit tired today, but maybe he's done this before, where he's just keeping everything back to the very end. And maybe he's looked at it and he's gone, you know what one I'm going for? I'm going for race number 3.
Well, actually, I think what you see here is he's just riding the rhythm. He's a very good technical rider. So he's getting in the draft here for Homer. He's staying close to everybody. And I don't know if you noticed, he just sort of went through those corners. And there wasn't a lot of variability. Maybe he coasted a little bit into some of the corners. But basically, he's just riding a rhythm. And he's just waiting for other people to make mistakes. This is kind of how I play ping pong. I don't go for a lot of kill shots, but I sort of just wait for other people to make mistakes. And you'd be amazing. It's amazing how many points you'll win by other people trying to take the win and you just playing defensive. And so it's a little bit what Sebastian's been doing in these races. And Sebastian's racing a lot. So I imagine he is a bit fatigued as well. If Sebastian rests up, and we've seen him rested before. We call him the Beast because not only can he be good technically, but he can be very, very strong in the endurance areas as well. And so interesting to watch him sort of from race to race because you can get a definitely a different person each time. Now we've got Timothy out front. We've got Vibeke trying to get in between him and Carl, and we just see Carl saying, you know what, I'm going to get in front of you. And I think this is why. So one of the things that Carl has to do here is use his endurance to his advantage, right? So he wants to keep making Timothy work and work and work. And then hopefully that training, that fitness level comes to the fore for Carl. Now, if we had a non-technical course in the last one, and I think I'm going to talk to Vanessa about this. So next week, I think we'll set up some non-technical courses at the end and let the endurance athletes be able to showcase what they're doing versus putting sort of handicapping them if they're not technically as skilled in that last race, just to put a little pressure on Timothy as well.
Ooh, could that happen on one of the days where I'm racing? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now, okay, Carl normally has the timing down to the millisecond, but I think he got caught out by about 50 milliseconds there. Oh, okay, now Vibeke was in great shape there, and this just goes to show you how skilled Timothy is. He can go through those corners at such a speed that other people will get taken out. Now, we were talking about Sebastian, yep. Mr. Consistent, and here you see it, right? Everybody else has put in huge efforts. Carl's at 193 heart rate. Sebastian's down here at 177 saying, yep, all you guys go kill yourself. I'm just going to be Mr. Consistent, and guess what? I'm going to podium. And he's not very far behind Timothy. Yep.
Yeah, he truly is the tactician, exactly like what you were saying. Just wait everybody else out, and he'll be the one left. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and it just shows you how much the skill plays into riding on Cadesport, cycling here on Cadesport. And you see Carl's worked his way back, and if there's a wheel to follow, Sebastian is a great wheel to follow to sort of learn how he goes through the corners, learn how he has the rhythm. You see Sebastian up into the 400 range, but but down now, coasting into the corner. And then I love how he handles the power. He just smooth back on the power, very much like you want to ride it. And so great person to sort of follow and watch his power as he goes before the corners and after the corners. And you can see here, Timothy's probably a little bit better at going at speed through the corners. But what you can see here is Sebastian is, at least 10 beats lower on the heart rate. And that will really matter as time progresses.
Yeah, and that's where his mountain bike experience comes to bear for Sebastian, is that really he's used to probably doing those technical descents outside where you have to really manhandle the handlebars, and they're used to really putting the power to go back uphill.
Yes, so we don't. No, I think this one's flat like a pancake. But I like the hills on Cadesport because they add to the technical aspect, especially coming down out of a corner, so to speak, and into those and where you brake and how you brake during that period of time. Okay, now you got Carl using a power up here. Does he have the timing right? He's going to put in a huge effort to try and make it through this corner before the corner caper ends. Oh, and again, now he's got to brake hard and then get off the brakes. Fantastic work. Great technical work there by Carl. He got the timing right on this one, and now he's putting Timothy under a lot of pressure with a kilometer to go.
Yeah,
and you can
these
see
are
them
fantastic.
both suffering here. Yeah, you can see them both suffering here. Really going for the effort. Timothy trying to get back on. Now, this is an interesting thing. You see these obstacles, these lanes. That's why we call it the lanes. But I thought maybe Timothy was going to try and get there into the draft. He's not able to really get the draft because they've separated lanes, or he could get into the lane, but then there's the danger of making that cornering. Now, maybe it's a little advantage Timothy here. Oh, Timothy has the corner caper and probably didn't even need it there as Carl was really pushing it, probably applying a little bit too much power coming out of that corner a little bit too quickly.
Yeah, final half a K now, so this might be sprint time. This might be the time to really see who's the boss on this. But some tight corners as well in this final half K, so maybe not. Maybe some being conservative is needed.
Yeah, I think here, I think that corner caper really helps Timothy, that and Carl going down. So it looks like Timothy should be able to hold on to this one for the victory, and he'll have a good 6-point advantage going into the last race. And it's a technical course, so advantage Timothy. Carl, excellent racing. Just got caught out there a little bit, but I loved the technical play there. You see Sebastian in third. He should be able to hold on for that, although Homer is applying a corner caper. So maybe Homer will be able to catch Sebastian. Huge effort from Homer, 1,000 watts. And it looks like Sebastian probably holds on for that. Yep. But Homer was looking to get there as well. So we've got a good round out. I'll do the points here when I see the finishing level as well. We got Pedro crossing the finish line, and then looks like Vivica coming across the finish line as well.
Yeah, that was an absolutely killer race. 7 seconds lead by Timothy, which honestly, that looked like it could be anybody's race up until that final, I'd say 25 to 30 seconds. Fantastic.
Yes, and sort of the same finishing order through the top 5 as well. So Timothy's got a big lead, 40 points. Carl at 34. Seb is at 28, Homer is at 24, Pedro is at 20, and then probably next comes David, but I've got to do a little bit more mental gymnastics to come up with all of that.
Carl is normally much more powerful at road riding, but he's really kind of shown himself on this course that he is one to watch going into the mountain bike courses from here on as well.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how this next race plays out, because while it's very technical, there is a power section here. on Cade Card. It's that big roundhouse curve there on the bottom left of the map profile, and you can really lay down the power there. Now, that kind of suits Timothy's sprint style that you were mentioning earlier, but depending on how fatigued Timothy is and depending on how much endurance Carl has, that may be a place where if Carl is conservative through the corners, which I'm sure he will be, that he may be able to stay in touch with Timothy. Now, the problem for the overall today is that Carl needs some separation. So he needs Timothy to go down and a couple of riders to be in between in order to take the points for the day. So I would imagine Timothy's going to be fairly conservative, just sort of mark Carl, just maybe try and stay in front of him, but even in front or behind, he'll still be able to take it all for the day. Now, knowing Timothy, now that I think about it, he's absolutely going to be going for the hat trick. So we'll see how that plays out as well. Now, Ben, his teammate, who took the last race from him, well, actually, Christian won the race on Thursday, but Ben took the position from Timothy. Well, Ben's not here today, so I'm thinking that Timothy's going to be going for the hat trick.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just saw a fantastic fly-through camera there, courtesy of Damon. That's an awesome way to view the course. Zeb is gunning it on this one. So like I said, I think maybe he was holding back to take race 3.
Well, I think he's really excited. He loves these technical courses. He hit that start beautifully, sort of maximizing the speed. Now you see Carl here is taking some risks. He's ahead of Timothy, and you really get that sort of flight simulator feel when you're in first person here. And oh wow, that was a great save. And Sebastian went down. Sebastian will be a little bit disappointed in that, but he'll get up. Oh, and you see that domino effect really can happen. Now, if I'm Carl, I'm really. Oh wow! I got to tell you, that was
a fantastic save.
Yep. Oh, and David Tobin goes down, runs into Carl. And okay, we got 3 heavyweights up here. This is going to be really fun on the skills. And this is that section where you can really apply a lot of power. And Timothy knew it, and he was on the power. And you see Sebastian trying to respond. Now they've got to pay attention. They got this uphill to lose some speed. Sebastian does an excellent job. And looks like Timothy might have gone down or he braked too hard. And so we see, okay, now this is interesting. We've got a lot of people between the front of the race and Timothy. Timothy's in 4th spot, Sebastian, and then Carl. If Carl can get ahead of Sebastian, Carl can take the day. Oh, nope, Timothy's got in front of his teammate. But on Thursday, teammates, it didn't matter. So maybe Vibeke will take it from Timothy today. And Carl still got a chance at the overall today.
Yeah, this is a very interesting course, and it really shows you how a technical course with those crashes will really any chance at a peloton aren't going to work here. We don't really have that outside air dynamic, so this changes everything.
Yes, and we see Sebastian going down there. And if Sebastian can get lulled into sort of following Carl, right, that what I call the Blue Angels effect, or I guess Snowbirds effect if you're in Canada, is you really do want to follow that person. And so what you'll find yourself doing is applying power in order to stay on their wheel. And if you're right on that edge where you're about to lose grip, that acceleration will cause you to lose the grip as well. And so it's very easy to do. And if Sebastian can do it, anybody can do it. But when you're on, you really got to ride your own race, especially in these technical courses, and just sort of pay attention to the corners and pay attention to your own rhythm. And then just sort of get in front of people because they crashed or they went slower in the corners. Oh, yeah, Vibeke was doing really well there. Then she slid out as well.
We're really seeing Carl, he's playing a tactic where he's pinching the inside corners of each corner.
Yeah, he's giving himself room to skid, right? So there's a couple of different ways that you can play this. I like to do the apexing because you can carry a little bit more speed through the corners. You see Sebastian doing that here. But another tactic is to sort of ride the inside, and it would be like if you're riding outdoors and you're on a road that's got cars and all of that, you're gonna hug that inside line because you don't want to get hit by a car. But if you're in a road race, if you're a pro cyclist and you have the whole road, then you're going to apex. So you definitely have those two options here. And you see somebody going down next to Sebastian as he's doing what I'm talking about. And he's got the brakes on here, and then he'll come out of that corner. So he's doing very, very well there. Now, Carl's got enough of a lead, and you see Carl playing it pretty conservative. So he's braking pretty hard before the corners, and he just doesn't want to make a mistake here. He'll give a little bit of time through the various corners. He'll go hard where you can go hard in the one spot on the course to sort of maintain his lead, and it'll be interesting to see how this works out. Now we've got Vibeke, and I would say normally Vibeke would let Timothy take third position and secure the win for the day, but actually, I hope Vibeke goes for it and gets in front of Timothy and takes it for the day with 7.7 kilometers to go.
Yeah, and 0.7 being our final lap, so it's going to be interesting to see here. So Carl's got to really, really be conservative. This is the point where it's not speed; it's just staying upright now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Timothy will be able to hold off Vibeke at this point. It was a 4 or 5 second gap. Looks like Sebastian will easily take second spot here. And even with a couple of crashes, Sebastian did very well. I think if he'd stayed upright, probably would have taken the victory for the day. But it'll get kind of interesting here. Let's see. Are they going to tie for the day? We're going to have to have them go out for a tiebreaker potentially because I think they're going to be tied, Carl and Timothy, for the day, given the current standings. Oh, Timothy goes down. Was that after the finish? If not, that could spoil his victory for the day.
Now, Zeb is actually putting more onto the power now, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it was in that section where you could put a little bit more power, and he might have even fancied a chance to catch Carl as well. But we see Carl's coming up here to the end, and so unless he makes a mistake on this corner, which is a tricky corner because it's a downhill in the turn. Ooh, and you see him skid a little bit there. So he sort of carried maximum speed through there, and a great win by Carl. Sebastian, who was sent to Champagne by Team Hive on Thursday because he got the win for them by putting himself in between ahead of Carl, puts himself ahead of Timothy today, and that means Carl and Timothy are tied on points for the day, and we'll have to look at what the tie-breaking rules are for that. Timothy is going to say it's mine because I won 2 races and Carl won 1. So probably Timothy would get the tiebreaker, but sometimes it's the last race of the day. We'll have to talk about what those rules are as we set up for CVR World Cup more in general. Vibeke crossing in 4th position, just off the podium, and puts her head in her hands there, but I think that was a very good performance, so no need to do that. Pedro rounds out the top 5. You've got Homer coming across as well. So Vibeke rises in the standings compared to everybody else, and compared to the first 2 races. And we've got David Tobin from West London crossing the line here as well. And
it's been an absolutely fantastic race.
Yep, absolutely. And then you've got Igor, who's probably his first. Oh, it looks like he's going to slide and crash on that one. Yep, I was like, he's going a little bit too hot on that one. So his head is probably spinning a little bit, and he's like, wait a minute, what's all this braking and cornering skills in this game? And certainly Cade Kart is all designed about the corners. So it'll be interesting to see him on a course like Cade Fondo, which doesn't have really any technical sections on it, and is all about sort of endurance and power. So it'll be interesting to see him on one of those courses.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing some great results here. Like Carl really pulled ahead, got 8 seconds over Zeb, which is hard to do on a technical course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, if you're just consistent, you do sort of get that effect as well. So I'm doing mental gymnastics, so you'll have to cover me, Mark.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, Zeb has really pulled ahead. He was, I thought that this was the case, that he was kind of feigning a bit of like, oh, I'm tired, guys. I'm not really going to push today. And he's really kind of bounced back into those last 2 races, especially this one. Timothy still holding on to a podium place for sure, really showing us that he's still got some teeth in the game when it comes to the technical races.
Yeah, I'll give you the top 5. Of course, you got Timothy and Carl. I'm just going to leave them tied for the day because we haven't announced what the tiebreakers are, both at 54 points. Fantastic ride in the last race by Carl to overcome Timothy's, what I normally say is superior technical skill. Now, Carl is giving me a little hesitation on that. I may have to revise that since on the technical course, Carl took the day. Then you've got Seb with 45 points. Then you've got Homer Thompson, Mr. Consistent. We didn't call his name a lot, but he rounds out 4th position with 32 points. Then you've got Pedro. We didn't talk about Pedro a lot. We did mention him a little bit in terms of having great legs, maybe coming up on the skill level as well, and he rounds out the top 5 with 30 points.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Pedro is one of those riders where he will hold a good, consistent sweet spot for an entire road race and be able to give you a good push at the end of a race. So I don't think we've seen the last of him podiuming yet.
I don't think so either. Anyway, great racing today. A lot of fun on a Saturday morning. Good to see the new riders in. It'll be interesting to see how they develop their skills over the coming races, how they can switch their paradigm from, stop pedaling and start cycling, and really sort of plan for those corners. And that should help them when they return to the road this spring and summer, because their mind will already be in the mode of, okay, there's a corner, I got to set up for the corner. Pack dynamics and how those work here on Cadesport as well. You can't just ride through people, which you can't do outside either. And so get you into the proper mindset for spring and summer.
Absolutely. And it's been fantastic and very entertaining races today. I'm really thankful that you all joined us. Thank you, and we'll be back soon with more races that will be promoted as to where the time is going to be for the broadcast on the Cadesport Facebook page and in the Cadesport app itself.
Thanks today, Mark.